Yo, what's happening, folks? It's me, Justin. We shirtless today because I realized that I was wearing the same shirt that I was wearing earlier this week, and I didn't want to go change. The boy works from home. I'm doing all this at my computer in my crib, so you know, wear the same shirt a couple days a week, whatever. It ain't no big deal. Anyways, uh, talking about this plugin and the biggest pitfall right now that I'm experiencing with it and the troubleshooting that we're going through to try to get this resolved and figured out is, for whatever reason, I mean, I probably know the reason, but these generated pages, the comparison pages, the ones that are like this platform versus that platform, they're not showing up in the sitemaps. And I realize that it's not for this website. This is just, a offline whatever, or it's an online local, old buck 27.0.0.1 type site. This one doesn't even have a sitemap, but I'm talking about the live website that I'm testing this on. I'm dicking around here with the PHP and figuring things out. Then once it's cool on here, then I copy it over to the actual live website. Things like editing the page templates as I figure out exactly how to. So those comparison pages are not showing up in the sitemaps, and if they don't show up in the sitemaps, they're not going to get indexed easily. I don't know if they would. Period. I don't know if sitting there manually putting in, which I would never do manually, like put in each and every page into Google or Bing or Yandex or whatever the fuck. That's like the biggest. That's a detrimental issue that we're trying to figure out right now. And it's really tough because the developers are in New Zealand. I'm in Kansas City. They got to set, they're 7 hours behind. You know what I'm saying? So we have to sit here and try to coordinate. Like, the only time we can actually communicate is like 8:30 to 11:30 at night. And then 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning, my time. That's like the only times or our days kind of line up well enough that, all right, we can have a meeting. We can actually, go back and forth in email or on the Codable website or whatever. Man, granted, it's only been one day. It's really not that big of a deal. One of the things that we were talking about when we were going back and forth was they're using the native WordPress sitemaps. I was looking at the I think I had all-in-one installed. I don't have a consistent SEO plugin because I don't really, they're more or less all the same. I sometimes use Rank Math, sometimes use All-in-One. I never fucking use Yoast. After they did something with images a few years back, and I'm like, you know what, staying away from them for sure. Plus the green dots, I don't care about that. That doesn't matter. I don't look at any of that. Those the 100-point scales or any of that when it comes to configuring pages or posts or whatever. So they're using the native WordPress. I was using the generated sitemaps. I didn't even know WordPress had a native sitemap after I think version 5.5. I think that's what they said. I'm like, that's new to me. I always did it through the plugin. So, and to be quite frank, I'm gonna be honest. I don't ever update title tags or meta descriptions or anything like that. I don't need the plugins at all. Now that I know that, because shit, most of the time Google doesn't even accept whatever you put in anyway. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna waste my time trying to craft this perfect 160 character meta description when they pull from the content anyway. So, and plus with this programmatic stuff, I'm not going to sit here and manually write up or even craft up some, plug and play type meta description based on it's this platform versus this platform. This is the best based on a category, blah, 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 blah. No, ain't dealing with it. Don't care. So yeah, that's kind of that's the problem we're running into. And it's one of those things where it's really halting. I don't want to start populating the plugin with products and everything like that, if we're constantly going back and forth. Oh, this needs to change, or that needs to change. Oh, guess what? We're gonna make this change, or blah blah blah. It's like, man, it's kind of just a ball buster, we'll say. So it's still in development. I was geeked as hell when I got it. I was like, oh yeah, this is the truth. It is the truth. It's just that how we're kind of going about it is we got to work some things out still. But fortunately, where are we looking at here? Plugin file editor. So fortunately, again, I don't know PHP. I ain't the guy to talk PHP. But I ain't gonna scroll down or anything like that. But just for the nerds out there, this is easy to understand. Like all this makes sense. Just like looking at it and looking at enough Python and HTML and PHP and CSS and I think in like 9th grade I learned Java like as a class, some stupid shit like that. It makes sense. So I can go in here and I can tinker around and go, okay, well here's where they pull this from. All right, well that's great. So now I can go and make it all sexy on the front end with the CSS. So that's beautiful. I love that part. Like this is going to be super easy to kind of manipulate and make it how exactly I want it to look, perform, behave, whatever. I can add the link at the top and then again at the bottom, all that kind of good stuff. As long as it starts working. And that's like the number one is the sitemap issue. That's number one. Number two, and this is probably not going to be for a long time, and I imagine that there's going to be some kind of wonkiness with indexing, the redundancy issue. And I think I talked about all this yesterday, but this is just kind of like me. This is more for me, like 6 months from now, looking back at today and go like, damn, I really dear diaried that on the May 19th. So the redundancy issue, again, it's like, let's just do this. So you got platform 2, and then if you compare it to platform 1, just so like this URL gets indexed, or this URL shows up in the sitemap. This URL shows up in the sitemap, but this URL does not, and neither does if we do 1 and 2. And that's what I mean with the redundancy issue is, I'm sure like once the solution's found out, it's gonna be like, oh, it's like 4 lines of code. But right now it's like, how do we get it so we verify that or not verify, but like I'm thinking maybe like a cascading, if this makes sense, like a cascading will appear to be a cascading comparison where it's like we're gonna compare platform 1 in their URL to everything after that that's submitted. And then when we do platform 2, it starts with platform 3 and it goes all the way down line. And then we do platform 4, it just goes down line. I think that's the solution. There's the redundancy issue solved right now. Now I just got to relay that to them and say, hey, based on the order that they're submitted, I'm sure there's like on the back end, it's like an ID, for each slot submitted, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that you compare ID. The first ID is less than the second ID. Boom. And that's it. I mean, that's how you would prevent redundancy, but then it's like, okay, well, if they're on platform 2, how can they show up at the bottom platform 1? That's a whole different issue for another day. But I got to relay that to my guys. I got to relay that to the guys. I'm fucking genius.